So in the process of doing the electrical, there's been a couple problems that popped up. And I found with these old British bikes, most of the wiring really wasn't that bad. The problem was the repairs people made along the way. Like this red with a green stripe. Why is this cut off? I don't know. Why is it not capped off? I don't know, but that's the feed for a bunch of stuff. So if that started arcing out to ground, it would cause all kinds of problems. Now, there's been an aftermarket electronic ignition put on this, which is great. However, this is the feed for it here, this white. This is essentially the 12-volt feed. Technically, it's the negative because it's positive ground, but it's the feed. Either way. So you have this here. It's by a metal frame. This is an exposed metal contactor right here, or spade connector. So that's no good. Even if it's dry, it's prone to arcing out on something. And then if you get any moisture up in here, especially off the front wheel, it's definitely going to short out and it's going to corrode. Then we look at these little squeeze-on connectors. Please, and I speak for every electrician, every professional electrician
up the wires
in
for
any
the
field
ignition
of
coil
electrical repair work.
We are going
And I
to pull the spark
beg
plug
you,
out of the thing,
do
put
not
it in the
use
spark
these
plug boot,
things.
put it up against
They
the
are
cylinder head,
terrible. They cause
roll it over
intermittent
with the
electrical
kicker,
issues.
and see
Technically, it
if
has
we
a
have
little knife
spark.
edge in there, and it should just cut through the insulation and down into the wire. But you have two problems.
We've got spark.
Now you only have a knife edge of contact. And electricity runs across the surface of the wire, not through the wire. So therefore, you also have a point of resistance because you don't have a great contact. Two, you've just cut the wire, or half the wire in half. Let's open this sucker up and take a look here. I'm not even sure how to open this thing. So it's a squeeze-on thing here. I might have to get a bigger flathead screwdriver. Once we pry this thing open here, I'm going to show you why you don't use these things. Well, we already have one wire that's cut off next to it. I guess that was technically a jumper wire, so it wasn't actually cut off. It's kind of janky. Let's pry this thing up and out of here. Let's take a look here. So the wire would go down in there. So we have two knife edges instead of one. Either way, that's not a great conductor, and you've already cut the wire in half. Plus, you're relying on this tension of some old plastic that is right over top of a cylinder head that gets approximately 260 degrees. That's a recipe for disaster. Also, we now have some cracked strands of wire in there. And over here, it looks like there was just as much insulation still rammed in there on top of the wire as there was metal. So you have very, very poor connections right there. So to fix this, what we're going to do is I'm going to cut and strip this off. We're going to cut this off, and then we will replace this. So you could either solder all these connectors back together, or you could use like a rubber waterproof connection and recrimp this one, and recrimp a new one on that one. I think I'm going to solder them because I like reliability. And I'm probably not going to be changing this wiring setup anytime soon. And if I do, I will cut and strip and resolder those wires. So let's cut these old ones off of here. Then we're going to cut this trim section off of here. It's important to use good tools. Use good strippers. Watch out for bad strippers. Cut that one off. All right. Now we are going to go around and strip some wire. So you want to make sure wherever your shrink tubing stays at, it's not too close to where you're soldering. Otherwise, you will go to solder it, and you'll melt the shrink tubing prematurely. Nobody wants that. So usually I swear up and down, when you're soldering wires, you have to put some flux on them and clean it off first. Supposedly, this solder has flux in it. So we're going to try it out. I feel like it's probably not going to work, but I figure it was worth a day in court. That solder doesn't really work that well. Solder kind of sucks. I guess it's kind of working. It's kind of lumpy. I don't really care for it. I think it would be better if we put flux on there. It is soldering, though you can see the dirt and the contaminants on the solder. Man, I don't really care for that. We're going to make it happen on this connection. Don't touch it. It might be hot. All right, here's your electrical work tech tip for the day. Sometimes you got these weird dead-end wires. I like to take some shrink tubing. Not that size. I like to take the smallest shrink tubing that fits over it. Slide over top there. Trim off your excess. Figure out where your excess is. Leave about 1/4 inch still on there sticking out. Take your soldering iron, or lighter if you're brave. There we go. Whoop, whoop. Go up and... Crap, don't knock it off the wire before you're done. Then go up and down the side of the shrink tube with the soldering iron. Just localize and meld it on there. Do. All right. Seems to stick on there a little bit better than wrapping electrical tape around it. There's your tech tip for the day. Should hopefully roll over pretty easy without the plug in it. So on the BSAs, they have a separate drain plug, or separate oil for the transmission and the separate oil for primary, much like a Harley. So we are going to first drain the transmission, which is a half Whitworth. So we're going to lefty-loosey this already out of here. I already broke this free, because that's a wise thing to do when shooting videos. And there is oil in it. So, whoop, there we go. Wow, that is black. That had been in there a while. So we're going to let that drain out of there. There's definitely some crud on the drain plug too, so we're going to clean that up really well. And we're going to keep that in mind, and probably, since this is a barn find, it's been sitting for a while, we are going to probably change it again in like 500 miles or so. Simply because it's just the wise thing to do. So while that's draining, we're going to move over to the primary, because the primary is the primary chain drive, and that is where that is the chain case that connects your transmission to your engine. Not that one. All right, that one. And then, there we are. So we have a wrench here. It is a 5/16 British Standard. No, this is a 1/4 inch Whitworth. Which is a 5/16 BSF. Whatever. I don't know what size this thing is. Either way, what we're going to do is we are going to lefty-loosey that drain plug right on out of there. Keep mindful of your copper washer. Whoop! Pull it out of there. Ooh, look, that was nice and clean primary oil. That was in pretty good shape. All right, cool. So we're going to let that quart drain out of there. And there's a giant flathead screwdriver slot on this side that you'll have to come around and see. So now we're going to put the oil in the primary, and this takes 4 ounces of 30 weight. But I'm just using the cheap stuff now because I'm going to take this oil out of here in like about 300 or 400 miles. So I'm just putting cheap oil in now. I'm using the thing on the side to verify how much oil goes in. The thing on the side of the quart jug. So I'm using cheap stuff just to save a couple bucks. And the reason I'm using the cheap stuff, or the reason I'm changing it in a handful of miles, is because there's probably a lot of like dried up oil goo and stuff in there. and I want to run it for a few hundred miles, get it hot, let the oil kind of rinse all that stuff free. Then I'll change the oil and then put the good stuff in there. So it's kind of like I'm going through like a little break-in process with it. And that's right about 4 ounces there. So with that, we will locate the cap that I just had in my hand. There it is. Put it back on there and tighten her up. Now, if you're wondering, how do you know? How do you check the level? Well, I really don't know. All right, let's cut on that. All right. Next thing we're going to want to do, now that we have the oil drained out of this, is to pull this oil filter slash screen out of here. So we're going to lefty-loosey this off the bottom of the engine case here. Let's get the nut out of the socket. And these just have a cleanable screen. It's not like a modern filter element like what you see on a modern bike or a modern car. There's a little washer on each one of these too. There should be anyways, so careful you don't lose those. And drop your ratchet into your oil pan there. Get all good and oil and scuzzy. And then should be able to pull this plate right down off of here. Maybe. It's a good thing I pulled this off of here. There's a decent amount of oil still inside there. You may or may not be able to see right there. That is the screen. So the screen should pop out of here. Maybe not. Well, so the screen's in pretty good shape. So just check it out. This screen here is pretty clean. The crud would be on the top side of this because the pickup actually goes to the bottom, so the oil soaks through, the screen catches it, and then pumps up into the engine. You'd think there'd be a better way to clean this thing, honestly, but there isn't. And while I believe this is technically a reusable gasket, it's really cruddy. We're going to order a new one. But we don't have one, and I can't have this thing dripping oil all over my lift for the next week while I wait for one to come in. So we are going to put this thing back up and on here. Okay, so we got the new oil screen back in this thing, and then we put the oil tank on, we hooked up the oil lines, and now we're going to try and kickstart it. Still kicking. Still kicking. Stay tuned.